here with you. Today is a beautiful Saturday. And I'm passionate about business, but more than anything, network marketing, personal development. And today, I really, really would like to talk about this because I have been listening to different information and different mentors. And this really resonated with me because there's a lot of people that right now, people are freaking out around the world in different places, in Mexico, in the United States, especially in Europe. Everybody's thinking about, what is going to happen. The economy is not the best everywhere, but you know what? We can create our own economy. We can actually thrive and rise and build, even if everything else around us is collapsing. So, as you're joining here on Facebook or in any other platform, please let me know with a number one if you're watching live, number two if you're watching with a replay or on a replay. I'm sorry, and let's go ahead and get started. So, the reality is that most people avoid what's happening. Most people avoid what is before them. Sadly, we have become very complacent, at least in Mexico and in the United States. I'm sure that also in other countries in Asia and in Europe, but most disasters have a forecast before they even happen. And I want you to take notice because you can prepare yourself and your family for these eventual things that will happen to you. Because I'm going to be very honest, uh, financial hardships will happen to any company, to any person in the world, unless you are in, like, the arena of technology where new things are coming and you're developing things. But I'm going to tell you one thing: you probably are not an inventor. You are not somebody that has developed the brand new device. And this is just for the regular people like you and me. We all will go through hardships, and there are some interesting facts that I want to talk about. 34% of Americans say that they struggle to afford a $500 emergency. Yes, and this is scary. So imagine, just talk about people in the United States. If something was to happen to your truck, to your vehicle, to your house, to your AC, now those of us who live in the US, we could be in a very tough spot if you don't have your financial future protected. And that means that you need to actually think about what's coming and actually take advantage of different opportunities or think for your future. Unemployment here in the US is low, but millions of people who are still having a job are unstable, and they work for low paid gig work. Yes, this is the reality we face because most people are underpaid. Let's say that you're very qualified, you're educated, but guess what? After you come out of college, it's hard to find a job. It is hard in your industry. Let's say that you are a nurse, or you are a doctor, or you're a musician, especially those of us living here in Nashville. There's tons of musicians here. There's a lot of them, not a lot of demand, but there's a lot of supply of different professions. So it is hard for individuals that come out of college to find a job that satisfies the needs. Yes, and it's crazy because most people who are living in this area, I live in Nashville, in the Nashville area, and things are expensive. Things are expensive. People from California move here because they think it's kind of like cheap. But in reality, if you're coming from Texas, or if you're coming from any other part of the world, from Alabama, from Ohio, and if you go and look at the price of the homes, or at the price of rent, gas, and every single thing, you are going to realize that if you are, let's say, in a metro area, let's say in the United States and of America, in Dallas metro area, or if you're in the Nashville metro area, you will have to actually find housing 40 minutes away from where everything is happening, because around here, prices are insanely crazy. So I'm going to tell you one thing: people settle for more than what they can actually get because there's nothing else. So eventually, and if you're joining, thank you so much for being here. Type number one if you're watching live, too, if you're watching on a replay, it is a pleasure to be here with you. Hold on a few minutes, and I'm gonna just tell you how is that you can get ahead and be one of the best in your industry. So prices are going up. Income, the income is flat. So most people actually jump into jobs that they don't like, they're underpaid, or they go straight into low paid gig work. And you know why? Because there's nothing else. So sadly, we have come as a nation, at least in the US, and I can also speak in Mexico because I'm Mexican, where people settle, where we settle. And I'm going to invite you to not be one of those people. Meaning, you're working harder and you're getting less. That's unfortunately what's happening. And let's talk about Europe. My husband is from Europe, and I, of course, I didn't grow up there, but we have many people we work in a single basis there. And Europe is facing one of the slowest economy growth in decades. Yes. If I'm just gonna tell you real numbers. If you go and look at some of the things in different countries like Germany and Austria, you see that the prices to even travel, take the train, are astronomical versus like sometimes you can even compare. Getting a plane ticket from the US to Europe is sometimes cheaper than having to travel inside of Europe. This is insane. And small businesses are suffocating from rising costs, taxes, regulation, employment, all of these things that you have to give to the employees. And now they have to be on a holiday and things like that. And it's insane that there's a lot of people closing their businesses. And youth unemployment is over 20% in Europe. And it's sad. And in Mexico, what do we have in Mexico? Nearly half of the population works in formal jobs, which is no stability. And I come from this environment. If you're Mexican, you know that you do something else. Not only if you're a doctor, yeah, of course you're a doctor, but you have other things. You do Avon or Tupperware or something else because you need to whenever you are working in Mexico. Every single person is an entrepreneur because there's nothing else. We don't have unemployment insurance. We don't have the food stamps that the United States people have. We don't have those things. So cost of living is really, really rising. The salaries are keeping low, and many families rely on one, or sometimes they have to jump into a second job, third job, so they can survive. And I'm going to tell you one thing. As I was living in Mexico, and I was there, and of course I live on and off in the United States and Mexico. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I was working for a church as a minister, going back, seeing different things. And whenever I was putting together all my costs in Mexico, guys, in reality, there's no difference between Mexico and here. In some instances, like gas, like electricity is super expensive. So imagine you have a job or a business that is paying you regularly in Mexico, but in reality, the cost of living, is very high compared to the US. Like, I will come to the US to buy clothes, Gap and different brands that I love, and Old Navy. And these brands in my home country, in Mexico, were twice or three times more expensive. So imagine, I will see now that I live here, there are many, many things that are cheaper in the US. There's also, a balance and imbalance in every country. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: in Mexico, things are getting hard, and it's not easy. You can't, just walk normally in the streets. At least where I come from, it's hard for you to go out after a certain hour because you are afraid that somebody's gonna come and steal from you. And it's sad because there's few things that you can do to actually survive. And there's insecurity, there's crime, there's different things. But there are places in Mexico, like in Sinaloa, where you cannot go in the streets at a certain time, like 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. And there's a lot of, shootings, and it's crazy. So sadly, businesses have had to close. Yes, because, people who are, working for the organized crime, and, they do this because there's nothing else to do. Fortunately, that's not the way, but they go and collect percentages from businesses, and otherwise they take him out forever. It's sad to see those things, but the world is not getting easier, guys. That's my point, and I know that it's taken me a long time to explain this, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. The world can be your best scenario if you work smarter. Your income must get smarter. You should not be thinking, hey, if I work more hours here, or if I open another, branch over here. You need to be smart before you even add things into your plate, because more work doesn't mean that you're going to have more income. This is the key. Economic hardship doesn't hit when the economy collapses. It hits when you're not prepared. It hits when you cannot sell your products and services at a higher rate than what you buy them from. So let's say that it costs you to produce like something that you make. I don't know. Maybe you produce, I don't know, like books or whatever that you do. If you cannot sell your products or your services at a price that can give you enough money so you can actually pay every single body in your business, or just have a good living, that, my friends, is when economic hardship hits. One thing I just really want to emphasize: people get crushed when they don't have customers, when you can't sell your inventory, when profit margins completely disappear, when you only have one income from one stream, and something happens, something collapses, something, like, I don't know, maybe you have a group of salespeople, and they decide to do something else, or they get sick, or they're discouraged. You're depending on somebody else. But if you do not think about these things long term, you're going to be left behind. Yes, you will. And this has nothing to do with luck, or, oh, I just keep on working and I'm not lucky, and I'm just going to go and visit the witches or whoever is doing the chanting, and they're going to pray for me, or they're going to do something, and I'm going to be lucky all of a sudden. No, guys, this has nothing to do with luck. It has everything to do with preparation, positioning, and awareness, and hard work action. And this is where most people freeze. We see the storm, and the storms are coming. You already heard that there's many things happening in different parts of the world. But if we're not prepared with a solution, or getting more products sold, getting more customers, having an additional source of income for your future. If you came out of college, you can't find a job, you need to do something. You need to be prepared for you to just embrace whatever you have to do. Like, if you have to take on a job you don't like, that's, let it be it. But you need to be prepared for that, and having something additional that you can actually jump and find what you're looking for in the marketplace. Because I'm going to tell you one thing: winners, they move early. And when you see the storm and you stay in the same lifestyle, the same mindset, and the same paycheck, you are going to face disaster. But if you prepare, because disaster will happen to all of us. You are building business, and then in 1 year, something's going to happen. Let me give you an example. Maybe you have a product that is only for a certain age of population. I don't know, 60-year-olds, and all of a sudden, a lot of people die, or they go out of business. Some of the people that are you're providing businesses to or services to, then you're gonna suffer. But winners move early. They recognize signals, they pivot fast, and they seize opportunity, while other people are just hesitating, or they're hoping and praying and just wishing that something might turn around. The truth about being first, about being the top of the top, not the first one in your industry, not the first one in your city doing, I don't know, car washes, or just selling books, or whatever you do in business, but actually being the top of the top. Whenever you think about being the best in your industry, preparing yourself, preparing, if you are in network marketing, preparing every single part, you will do good. But if you only just I'm just gonna be average. I'm just gonna see what happens. We'll see. I'm okay. I don't need a new car. I don't need a new home. I don't need to have better clothes. I don't need this. I'm okay. I'm surviving. This is a trap. You need to wake up, because being first in your industry has nothing to do with talent or luck. It has to do with consistency. It has to do with doing the things in and out. I have seen it in our businesses, because we have multiple businesses. It doesn't matter the strategy that you have. It could be the sorriest, ugliest, the most unproductive strategy, but you will still get results if you continue to do things. I've seen that in the past. I've had websites, I've had e-commerce stores, and even when I haven't had any ads going on, things got sold. Why? Because the things were out there, the SEO working, and you just showing up, not intentionally. And this is the beautiful part. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be talented, you don't have to do any of these things. You just need to show up, because that's when you will meet opportunity and success. Now, it is all about preparation, awareness, and execution. And as some of my mentors say, winners seize opportunity while others freeze. Other people will say, well, you know what? This is happening. I'm not having enough customers, or I am, these other things are happening in the world and in the economy and the governments and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Those who freeze and are afraid will always lose. Yes. I'm going to tell you one thing. When you're first, you get attention. When you're the best, you set the standard. When you're the first, you become the authority. When you're the first, you're not chasing money. Money chases you. Business chases you. And if you apply this, you can apply this to businesses, personal brand, your skills, income strategy, investments, online presence, network marketing. This applies to every single part, because people who play small, they end up playing small. They end up playing, just under average. I'm okay. I'm not going to disturb anybody. But people who play big, they have a huge vision, because when you shrink your vision, when you depend on a paycheck, on one income only, maybe you just have a business, and the business is low, and you say, well, it's okay, now we're gonna cut off on these, we're gonna lay off these people. If you play like that, if you depend on one business or one income, you are headed for disaster. When you ignore economic shifts, when you stay average because it feels safe, that's when you will suffer. And don't tell me I did not warn you, because there are things happening right now. And if you don't wake up, we're about to hit Christmas. We're about to hit the end of the year. Right now is when you can actually have your biggest hit of the year in any industry. If you do so with consistency, and if you don't stop, and if you don't go to sleep. Now, I want to tell you one thing. Playing small is not being humble. It's a financial trap. Our creator did not design us just to be average. He gave us creativity, ideas, vision, talent, resilience, and all of these things that we have around us. This world was designed for you and I to discover it, to travel, to see history with our own eyes, and that takes guts. Because that takes guts to say, hey, am I going to be able to afford to go to this country or to this place or take my family on this vacation? That takes guts, because you need to go and produce and be more. Because if you are here to just survive, you'll just completely collapse. But if you're here not just only to survive, if you're here to dominate, you are going to do good. Because if you hit for the stars, you're just gonna, even if you fail, you're gonna be a little bit over average, or even a superstar. But if you are just hitting for, I'm just gonna survive, I'm just gonna pay my bills, you know what, you might as well quit. And I'm gonna leave you with this. Turn every crisis into an advantage. Turn every crisis into an advantage. I've seen it over and over, throughout my life in business. Every shutdown, every crisis, every unexpected shift, every single thing that happens around our world can actually be an opportunity, because those who react in fear, they wait, they panic, they freeze, they complain, and they lose ground. But those people, and probably that's you, and I hope that's you adapt. Those who are visionaries adapt, and they are constantly changing, different things so they can add up, skills, income, another source of, investments and things like that. Because it is during recessions, listen to this, that new fortunes are created. And that's because these people, and you can be one of those. I'm not telling you that you're going to be the next Elon Musk, but you can be one of those who actually takes opportunity and turn it for your advantage, so you can actually benefit your entire family tree. And downturns are not a time to shrink, they're a time to multiply. And you must have a plan and mentorship and a proven path and a community. So you need to have an additional source of income. If you have your job, that's perfectly fine, but you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. If you have a business, you need to have another source of income. And that is what I love to do. I love to help people to actually have this additional source of income. I have save this last part intentionally because I want you to understand that the economic reality is what it is. It's not nice, but once you understand the power of being first and being at the top, once you know how vital is to have and build multiple incomes of stream multiple income streams, it is crucial because you finally then understand why what I'm about to tell you, which I would love to sit down with you. We have different time slots where we can actually chat. It might be one of those things that you can add, and that's called network marketing. That's called another business where simply, you recommend things that you like to other people, and you actually get paid, and you don't have to work every single day, for you to be paid. Once you have a customer, you get purchases, and you get paid every single time you have customers. So it's very, very simple. You don't have to be driving your car. You don't have to be delivering things. You don't have to be begging for a raise. You don't have to do any of those things. It is a leverage business, and it is great, and it's amazing. It is a chance to be one of the first in your industry. And I'm going to tell you why. A lot of people right now in this type of industry, I'm telling you, they are realizing that we need to shift gears. And you can actually, you don't need to quit your job. You can actually benefit, working part-time or doing different things, on a side. And you can add up those 400 euros or dollars that I was telling you about at the beginning of this Facebook live or live somewhere else. And why? Because what would happen if you had to pay for your car repair $500, $2,000 today, and you don't have it, and you need a vehicle to go to your job or go and open your business or go to school? If you don't have it, it's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. But what if you were able to create a passive income for $400 extra a month that you add, and then when you multiply these over a period of time, and if you're young, I'm gonna ask you to take this advice, and don't do as I did, that I spent everything when I was, making, a really, really great money in my early years, and then I just spent everything. Don't do that. Just add another source of income. And if that's you, maybe you're looking for something else, I would love to help you, guide you, and mentor you. I'm going to leave you with this. If you are ready to find out, maybe you want to start, something brand new, or you want to know more, just start here in the comments, or shoot me a message and say I'm ready, or just shoot me a message saying start. And this is not hype, it's no pressure. We have a plan. We have a help thousands of individuals around the world to generate just 100 extra dollars, 100 extra euros a month. And you don't have to think that this has to be really hard, but your family deserves this. You deserve security, you deserve a strategy, and you deserve leadership in your life. So let's build your additional income stream now. And, I hope that I can talk to you very soon. And thank you for being here on this call. Thank you. Bye.